Welcome into the PFF podcast, your Big Time Throwcast edition. That's right, we're taking the Big Time Throwcast over to the PFF podcast. We hope you enjoy it. This is our look at quarterback play from every angle possible. I'm Steve Palazzolo, joined by Zach Robinson. For those who have not heard the Big Time Throwcast before, we welcome you. We have a lot of fun just diving into quarterback play. Like I said, from all angles. Zach brings a ton of experience, one of our newer PFF analysts, but he's been here over a year with the company, former NFL quarterback, 4 different teams, and a star at Oklahoma State. So Zach, we're moving up in the world from our little Big Time Throwcast over to the PFF podcast. And there are millions and millions of listeners, so say hi to all the people. We've done a couple episodes on the big show here.
Yeah, this is big time stuff for us. We were how many shows did we get on the Big Time Throwcast leading up to now?
We're about 50 shows in there.
50 shows, yeah. So 50 shows, we're getting the call up to the big leagues, so it's good stuff.
Yeah, something I never got coming from minor league baseball. So finally getting called up, it feels good. So like I said, guys, we like to dive into quarterback play every which way. It's all about preseason week 1. There are a ton of quarterbacks to talk about. Before we dive in, though, I want to tell you about my new favorite way to play fantasy football. It's over at playdraft.com or Draft in your app store. Go check it out because it's a fun, quick, and easy way to play. They're all best ball leagues, meaning you're going to draft a team and then that's it. You're going to draft, forget about injuries, forget about trades, forget about the waiver wire. 18 players on your NFL team, and they're going to take your best players every single week. It's not just NFL. You can play MLB, NBA. They even have some golf games. It's a ton of fun, and the best part about all of this is you can win real money. And they've got some smaller games, some $1 games, $3 games, goes up to $10, even $100 games. It's up to you, and there are some great prizes that you can win, actual, real money. We have a very special offer here at PFF where if you make your first deposit, all you have to do is use the promo code PFF and you get a free $3 game and see what it's all about. We're all playing it over here at PFF. I'm having a ton of fun. Games start every couple minutes, to be honest. They are just nonstop, so you can even play in season if you want. Fast draft, which I love. You get your draft done in under an hour, or the slow draft if you want to take your time. So check it all out, playdraft.com or Draft in your app store. Use the promo code PFF for a free $3 game today. All right, it's all about preseason week 1, talking quarterbacks, Zach. So, we spent the summer going through and, spending about a half hour on each quarterback. We'll zip through this a little bit quicker. I think the story of preseason week 1 was certainly, it's always great to just get that first look at your rookies. That first look, how good do they look? How comfortable do they look? I always come back to that comfort level, right? Last year at this time, Jared Goff looked a little fidgety. Dak Prescott looked pretty comfortable. Carson Wentz looked pretty comfortable. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, that was a pretty telling sign for the season, especially with Dak. So, let me start with this. How difficult is it for these rookies? You're just a couple weeks into training camp. Your head's probably spinning. What is it like? What are these guys going through when they get out there for their first NFL action?
Yeah, I think it's just a little awkward at first. You go through OTAs, and most of these guys have been getting, significant reps with the 2s at least, and then, some guys are getting some 1s. So they've had a good amount of reps going in to where, the first week of the preseason, you're seeing obviously basic coverage looks, and you're going through your day 1 passing install type of plays where a lot of them are pick a side, 1 to 2 type of deal, pick a side before the snap and then just kind of react and play. So definitely good to see the guys out there just, what they look like in an NFL uniform. Do they look completely different, or is it about the same? I think most of the scouting part that we did, with these guys, it looked pretty true to what we saw on tape, really on the games through this week. So definitely good to just kind of see guys and what they look like out there.
I made the comment on our podcast that did our overall preseason week 1 review, and we did touch on the rookie quarterbacks, myself and Sam Monson. And the thing that I said is I feel like a lot of times the rookies initially do look a lot like they did in college. There hasn't been a lot of time to progress or regress. So
Right.
a lot of times their strengths remain strengths and their weaknesses remain weaknesses, at least early on in preseason. I definitely think when you look at the rookie quarterbacks, we saw definitely a lot of the same traits that we saw coming out of college. So let's get right into it. Let's start with Mitchell Trubisky. He was the first quarterback taken. It's Mitch now. We went back and forth on Mitchell and Mitch. It's Mitch. I'm sticking with Mitch.
Got to be Mitch. Yeah.
Right. We discussed this too. It's not like Mitchell's just not a franchise quarterback name. You got to stick with Mitch.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he played pretty well in his first action. He was our team of the week quarterback. Had an adjusted completion percentage of 90.9%, number 2 in the NFL among all quarterbacks with at least 20 attempts this week. What'd you see from Trubisky and how the Bears used him in his first week of action?
Yeah, you mentioned it. You mentioned comfort last year with Dak Prescott. It looks like Trubisky is just goes out there and plays ball. I think that's what you like about him in college is just he's just reacting and playing, and you saw him on a couple scramble plays. They moved the pocket well, 5 for 5 on design rollouts for 41 yards and a touchdown. That's really something that he does well is get out on the move and throwing on the run. You see the accuracy was there, just that kind of instinctive playmaker that he is all showed up really pretty early on watching him play. So we've been a big fan of him, all along. On draft night, people are saying, what in the world is going on? This guy's not a guy. So it was definitely good to see him get out there and just look comfortable and really just let it loose and just play.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed first, and when you talk about the Chicago Bears and that offensive system and how they, essentially had some success last year with a revolving door at quarterback due to injuries, Jay Cutler, Brian Hoyer, and Matt Barkley. They did a good job of scheming things up last year. I know you raved about the Bears offensive scheme last year on quite a few of our podcasts, and it might go unnoticed because you have a Jay Cutler and a Brian Hoyer and a Matt Barkley running the show, but for what they had to work with, I thought they did a good job. Thought they did a nice job with Trubisky in week 1 as well. The stat I loved pulling out, and I pulled this out as I was watching the game. I'm like, man, they're rolling him out a ton. They're really giving him some nice, half-field rollouts to work with. And I look up his numbers at UNC. He was 23 of 26 on those designed rollouts. And on, was it Thursday night or Friday? Thursday night, whatever night it was, 5 for 5, 41 yards, and a touchdown in week 1 on design rollouts. So I love how they said, hey, look, this is something we saw that you did well. This is something we're also going to accentuate, take advantage of your athleticism and some of the things that you do well.
Yeah, no doubt. The Bears scheme, they do a great job of just simplifying everything for the QB where they're not having to think a whole lot pre-snap. They spread it out, and it looks a lot like his college offense and what they're doing. So that's why I think, we saw Glennon struggle a little bit early on. He threw the bad pick, and I just think that his skill set for what that offense is, for really what the modern NFL QB really is, unless you're Tom Brady and just picking guys apart from the pocket, which you don't see a whole lot of just true guys like that. The guys that can extend the play, get out on the move, run around a little bit. He fits that exact skill set. So just a matter of time before he plays. I think he'll be ready to play pretty early, and I say you let him do it, go learn, make a bunch of mistakes, see a bunch of different blitz looks, and just go out and play, because I think he's definitely going to be ready to go.
So you're ready for him now. I mean, I think the phrase is, you adjust to what you see, right? I mean, on paper, maybe you wanted him to sit and learn, but he only has that 1 full year of experience at UNC. So how much more sitting does he need? Is it time? Is it going to be week 1? I mean, not to overreact to just 1 week of preseason, but Glennon did not look good. Trubisky did. Is it time to just throw Trubisky up there against the ones in the preseason, see what he's got, and throw him in week 1 of the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that with this guy that you're necessarily, if he goes out and struggles, that he's gonna lose confidence or lose kind of who he is as a player. That's obviously what you worry about, throwing him in that early. I think this guy, just from seeing things off the field and what he's like, he really doesn't care about anything that's going on the outside with the media and what people are saying. He just wants to play ball, and that's the best attitude to have, especially as a rookie. I think that kind of sets up well for him to be able to play, not just learning the offense and his skill set, but just kind of his demeanor and how he is. So it is an overreaction to say that he needs to go in there and start, and maybe you just give him a few weeks so he can see what a typical NFL week is like, from Monday game plan wise all the way up. Give him, 4 or 5, however many weeks just to get acclimated to the NFL schedule. And then, I say go let him play, because he's obviously talented enough to warrant those reps and be the guy.
How different is that then? So going through that process as a starter rather than, hey, I'm going to be the backup and just kind of jump in there and run some plays this week. Is that a whole different deal? I know you were never a starter, but I assume that's a whole different deal, right, Zach?
Yeah, no, those starters, man, they got so much on their plate because they're getting every single walkthrough rep, every single rep in practice, that the offense is taking. So, it's a huge, weight on your shoulder every day you walk into the building. Those guys are, having to be on all the time, ready to answer questions, ready to, kind of tell guys how they want specific routes run. So it's a huge adjustment. I think, that is the really only thing holding him back at this point, is just kind of getting into that flow and realizing what it's like to truly be an NFL quarterback week in and week out, because it is a ton of responsibility.
Give me some of the things that you liked about him coming out. Now, we reviewed the entire draft class back in April and their fit and all that stuff. What were some of the things that you really liked about Trubisky's game, and why, after just 1 year at UNC, were you a believer in him? Not necessarily that he was going to be, a top 5 guy over, in the league, but you're a believer in him that he can have success despite only 1 year sample size.
Yeah, I think just the way he sees the game and the way he processes the game is a lot like Drew Brees. I think when you watch them play, that he's able to click through progressions very, very quickly while feeling the pocket. If you've got that instinct feel in the pocket like he's got and some of the top guys got, you've definitely always got a chance to at least get to the right guy when you process everything. And accuracy wise, he was good. I'd say arm talent wise wasn't the best in this class, but is still warrants enough to be a really, really good solid NFL starter. So those were the main things that stuck out, is just his ability to get from 1 to 2 to 3. You don't see it with college guys that much, and that's why it stuck out so much watching him last season. It just showed up play after play. You're like, man, this guy just gets the game. He understands how to play. And then he can extend the play, like we mentioned, with his athleticism. So those are the biggest things. I think really the Drew Brees processing kind of comparison, I think, is the best thing in my mind that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree on that. And I think the thing to watch now for Bears fans, it was a pretty controlled game plan. Like we said, we talked about the Bears playing to his strengths. What's going to happen now if they do open it up a little bit more? When you and I were watching him last year, the deep ball's not really his strength. I think it's something that he needs to be a little bit more consistent with. He certainly flashed it. He would throw some quarters posts, right in stride, and he made a few nice throws, but the deep ball is inconsistent, to say the least. And, I just want to see when he does have to go down the field a little bit more, how he handles that. But certainly a good start for Trubisky, and an encouraging start for Bears fans, especially after they took so much heat for how they went up and got Trubisky from number 3 to number 2. But hey, look, if he pans out, maybe it's not that big of a deal. So good start for Trubisky. Let's go to Patrick Mahomes, the second quarterback off the board in the NFL draft. Kansas City Chiefs made a power play to move up to go get Mahomes. We've talked about him quite a bit this offseason. big thing for him coming out of Texas Tech. You've got the air raid system that everybody says, well, you've never had an air raid quarterback come into the NFL and have success. And then Patrick Mahomes' individual style. It's not just an air raid system, but it's almost like you can't criticize him for that because he doesn't play within the system. He plays outside of the system quite a bit. So, what'd you see from Mahomes? The big question, can he play within structure in this new offense in Kansas City? How did he perform? A little bit smaller sample size for him compared to Trubisky.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. I think, he made some nice throws. Didn't really do anything that you said, whoa, holy smokes, he's back to just the gunslinger street ball type of play that you got to see from him in college so much. But, I think a lot of that, and we talked about it, was attributed to they saw a 3-man rush drop 8 more than anybody I can remember watching ever, play quarterback. And so that kind of made him play out of structure more than not. I think they did a good job of, simplifying the reads and simple things and not spreading the game out too much and kind of actually, getting the game played in a box to where it was a lot of one-on-one coverage outside and then 1-2 and then, the play that he made on the touchdown play, rolling out and then kind of looking off to the right and then coming back to that guy. The touch, the location of that throw, the willingness to throw that. Not many guys are doing that and making those kind of plays. So that's just kind of a little sample of what we saw so much in college. Just the drive and dish and some of those things that he can do with his vision and ability to see was pretty incredible. So I loved that play overall. Thought he did a good job. Missed really one read that I saw on a slant flat down inside the 10-yard line, but other than that, stayed on schedule and looked pretty solid.
Did you just give me a point guard scouting report? Did you say that he drove and dished?
Drive and dish. I think he's got some serious drive and dish to his game. Some Steph Curry, some Chris Paul. Yeah, his vision. I would love to see the guy out on a basketball court because the things that his vision and what he sees is pretty incredible. So yeah, that we got the point guard comparison going there.
I like it. Yeah, he makes no look throws on the football field, so I can only imagine what his no look passes look like on the basketball court. I love the Twitter reaction to that touchdown pass because depending on what side you're on, if you were on the side that when Mahomes was coming out said, hey, this guy's just a great playmaker, there's some Brett Favre to his game, not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but there's that style. If you were that guy, you're like, hey, there it is. There's that playmaking ability. If you thought that he was reckless with the football, you're like, come on, Rook, you can't make those throws in the NFL. And it's like, what do you mean? He just did. He just made that throw in the NFL. Personally, I am a black and white results-based type of guy. So if you made the throw and you had success with it, then it was a good throw. Now, if you go ahead, and Sam and I talked about this too, there probably will be a time that he throws back across his body and he throws it to a linebacker rather than his teammate. But I think that's just what you're getting into with Patrick Mahomes. There will be some special plays like that, and this is why I think Kansas City went and got him. The opposite of that is Alex Smith, who's probably not going to make a ton of those plays. He'll make the standard plays within structure. He will not hit many linebackers with passes. He will take care of the football. But, man, this playmaking ability that Mahomes brings to the table, that's what Kansas City went and got. And that's why I do think he ends up seeing the field a little bit sooner than people think.
You think it's this year maybe?
I really think that there is this element to Kansas City where they just want to kind of, again, using the same analogy, they want to get on the green, right, with Alex Smith. They want to be in the second half of the season, 3/4 of the way through the season with 7 or 8 wins, ready to make a playoff push. And I don't think that they want to go into the playoffs with Alex Smith again. I think they had a bye, and they were at home last year, and they couldn't get by an average Steelers defense with that offense.
Yeah.
They have a potentially championship level type of defense, and I think it's boom or bust for them. Why not pretend that Patrick Mahomes is your Colin Kaepernick and it's 2012 and run with it. I really think that deep down Kansas City would love for Mahomes to just continue to develop. They throw him in there. He's a playmaker. and maybe sparks them down the stretch. We'll see.
I'm with you. No, I'm completely with you. I think that he would be able to mentally handle it as well, especially because it's not going to be like, with Trubisky or Watson to where it's early on in the season. So maybe it is, if it happens later on in the season and he's going to get a ton of reps on the scout team, which is going to be the best thing for him. He's going to realize which throws he can make, can't make. And of course, he's still going to have that, like you said, some of those throws where it's a head scratching decision. Why do you even try that throw? But that's him as a player. But those reps on the scout team are going to be incredibly valuable for him. The first however many weeks into the season, if it ends up being the whole season. But I'm with you. This guy's got so much game that if you're Kansas City and it's just kind of you're scoring 17 points a game, 14, 20, why not toss him in there and see what happens? Because that defense is definitely good enough to make up for maybe some of his mistakes.
It's so fascinating because you have such completely different styles between Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. Kansas City, and look, Mahomes is not going to be a finished product this year, no matter how good or bad he's just not a finished product. But you really have that decision to make. Do we want to play this more conservative brand of football, or are we okay with, a quarterback that might lose us some games, but he certainly could win some games for us as well? So it's a serious decision that they have to make. I think this year, obviously Mahomes is the guy for the future. They invested heavily in him. But for this year, as a potential playoff team, it is a decision that they have to make. Anything else about Mahomes' game that stood out? Only threw a handful of passes, but like we talked about Trubisky, it was a lot of what we thought he was in what we saw from him in college.
Yeah, no, I was encouraged. They lined up in more kind of pro style sets, and it wasn't 5 wide receivers, spread everything out. So they kind of condensed the game and got to see what it could be like him playing in a 2-back type set and those type of things. So I did like that. He made a nice throw across the middle. That was on a dig. That was a really good throw. And then a couple outside the numbers. The go ball got called back on the first play, which Kansas City, gotta love Andy Reid. All 4 quarterbacks' first play in that game was all go routes. So he was letting his QBs go out there and sling it, which is fun. But I think very positive for Mahomes. Didn't show anything that thought, whoa, he's totally out of sorts here and his style is not going to work. He's definitely going to work out. Just going to take a little bit more time.
I love it. Let's move on to Deshaun Watson, Houston Texans. And again, this is, I like to gauge Twitter reaction, right or wrong. I like to just see what the people are talking about. Sometimes it's a little too distracting, but Watson, similar to, if you were on the side that, hey, he's good, he's a good player, he was outstanding in college, he's going to carry it to the NFL, you saw him and there was enough good there that you could say, hey, look, Watson looked great. If you had some question marks about Watson, like I know you did, it was also easy to say, you know what? Again, just like Trubisky, just like Mahomes, it was a lot of what we saw in college. And I saw that same thing. I thought the plays that were there, the first reads, the quick reads, a lot of those were there. There's a few times I don't think he made it all the way through his progressions, took off a little bit early, did that one time in the red zone as well. And I just think those were a lot of the things we had questions about coming out of Clemson. Misses a seam route, missed a couple throws that he should have hit. Same thing that happened last year with him at Clemson. What did you see from Watson, the good, the bad, and did he look like, what you expected him to look like, say, in week 1?
Yeah, I thought so. I thought if any guy looked exactly like we saw him in college, it was Watson. Just to a T. Missed a couple throws, like you said, on the seam. I think if he hits that, then he ends up having a really good night. There's 2 seam throws that he overthrew, but
2 seam throws.
And if he hits those, he has a really, really good night, because that's his style of play. Is he's going to have to be accurate on all of those throws and be, that timing and rhythm passer, stay within that. And then we did see, some plays where when it wasn't exactly how he'd hoped, it worked out pre-snap, whether it was due to pressure up front or just the route combination, not suiting his eye. You saw him kind of drop his eyes down and scramble around and try to make a play outside the pocket, which is exactly like we saw all throughout college. So, I think that still is the biggest question mark is, when it doesn't match up, is he going to be able to stay within the pocket, slide, feel the pocket, and get to that next guy and throw it accurately? He did have one play where I think he got to a backside dig, kind of late in the pocket, which was good. It wasn't an accurate throw; it was on the guy, but
that's progress, though, right? Compared to what he had done.
Absolutely. No, he's definitely got some poise to stay in there. It's just a matter of, does he have the poise when it doesn't work out and he doesn't drop his eyes down and look for a lane to run through? Because as much as we like him taking off and running and making those types of plays, man, those guys are coming once we get into real game speed. So definitely stuck all the throws he needed to stick, minus those two seam routes. And, overall, we mentioned comfort with the other guys. Same thing with Watson. Has always been kind of a comfortable looking guy back there. So I think overall pretty positive first week.
One of the things that you pointed out last year on the podcast about Dak Prescott, really underrated thing that I thought was astute, just how he checks down, calm and controlled, and throws with touch. And it looks so simple on TV, and it's like, come on, Zach, the guy just threw the ball 4 yards right in front of his face to the running back. But like you were saying, when the pocket is chaotic and there's bodies flying all over the place, just that ability to like take a little something off, throw a nice catchable pass, put it right on a guy's face mask so he can turn and get upfield, and maybe it's just a 6, 8, 10-yard gain. It seems so simple, but Dak is very, very smooth at doing that. And I know that's something that you had some concerns with about Watson, is just that, again, I hate saying that he doesn't have poise, because you talk about a guy that, like, in crunch time, under pressure, always seems to step up, but doesn't always stay balanced and ready to throw in the pocket. He did have a pass like that the other night where he had the ability to step through the pocket. He looked like he was ready to take off and run, and then all of a sudden there's a receiver open in front of his face, and he rushes the throw and throws it behind him.
Yeah,
it's that simple throw, and Dak might just step up and calmly just dump it off to him, and you're like, okay, great, good job, Dak. But simple plays like that, the difference is an incompletion or an 8-yard gain. Those plays add up, and I do think that was just another play that may have exemplified some of the stuff that Watson had showed at Clemson that still needs to improve.
No, you're exactly right. The poise on checkdowns is something that it kind of goes by the wayward. Guys don't notice it that much, but it is something that translates into bigger stuff down the road. Whether it's poise to get to a deeper throw or whatnot late in the pocket. I think those are the things that are just it's going to take a lot of time. We've talked about how he grew up playing a certain style from when he was age 8 or whenever he started playing, that he was the fastest guy on the field. And when it wasn't there, he could look for a running lane and make a play and go in there, just like RG3 and some of these other guys that don't exactly stand in the pocket to extend the play to throw. They're looking for running lanes. And so, if your mind starts moving a little fast that way, and then you spot a guy and then you end up, throwing an inaccurate throw. So those are definitely things that we're looking for as the season progresses. Can he, get a little more poise and just be calm and quiet-minded when he's trying to check it down underneath.
He did show that athleticism, though. He did have the 15-yard touchdown run. There were a few plays, while it's not ideal to drop your eyes and try to scramble around, you could see him break out of the pocket and break away from pressure. So, again, while the style's not exactly what you're looking for, certainly showed that he was an athlete that could play, on the field with NFL players. And, the plays, like I said, where the pre-snap read was clean, he looked pretty accurate. When he needed to get the ball, the quick curl, the quick out, and those passes that he did do a nice job of hitting at Clemson. Curious about, I just love reading your notes in our Google Doc. Talk to me about this bunches and stacks and this note that you put in here that the people at home can't see, but this is where you just kind of unleash everything that's up in your brain. about these quarterbacks, this note about bunches and stacks against zone coverage and what he's going to be able to do in those situations.
Yeah, so that system, the Houston and really New England and a lot of teams throughout the NFL love, run bunches and stacks to try to cause confusion, and it forces the defense to make a check, whether they're in man-to-man or any type of zone coverage. When you get down into those bunch-type formations with three guys or either two guys stacked, it can cause problems. I think it's a great way, everybody loves to do it because it's a great way to scheme guys open, but then if you get certain zone looks, it does look confusing for the QB because everybody's so tight in there. It's like kind of playing inside the 5-yard line, basically. The bodies are everybody's close together, and you're having to process stuff quickly. I think that he'll struggle with that stuff, early on, especially when it's different types of zone coverages. Is just kind of seeing all that stuff happen. How fast he can process it, and then making an accurate throw. We saw it. There was a few times where those were the scramble plays he ended up making, where it was a bunch look, and he wasn't really sure what he was seeing, so he scrambled out. I think those are some things that maybe they're not going to be able to do as much, and maybe get him spread out and more cleaner looks like we saw throughout his college career. But definitely something to kind of look forward to, and how they handle just what they put on his plate if he is the guy, because I think it's only a matter of time before he's in there playing over Savage.
Yeah, it's fascinating because you're talking about, hey, bunches and stacks. Those are supposed to be used to the quarterback's advantage, like you said. That's that makes the defense give away what they're doing, and there's some sort of tell as to what the coverage is. And you're telling me maybe that's not an advantage for Watson. He's better off being a little bit more spread out just because of his style and where he looks most comfortable. That's just a fascinating concept to me, and something I know I'm going to be watching in the coming weeks with Watson in that Houston offense. 70% adjusted completion percentage under pressure, a strong number for Watson. Only 4 of 12, however, on passes beyond 10 yards, 91 yards, but I think 25 of those came on just before the end of the half, gimme stat patter. So you're really talking 3 of 11 on passes beyond 10 yards. So something to certainly keep an eye on for Watson moving forward. Let's go to your protege for at least an offseason, Deshaun Kaiser of the Cleveland Browns, who was probably right up there with Mitch Trubisky. I can't believe I'm falling back and calling him Mitchell. I was so against
his mom would appreciate it.
I'm doing it for Mitch's mom, Mitchell. He was right up there with Trubisky. Deshaun Kaiser was, as far as the top quarterback or one of the top quarterbacks of the entire weekend. Of course, those who have listened to us will know that, Zach, you did work with Deshaun this offseason, mechanics, just general preparation for the draft, all sorts of stuff. We never got into the very specific details about the types of stuff that you may have worked on, but obviously you're always free to tell us anything specific. The first thing I noticed with Kaiser, I know you and I have talked about it as far as his mechanics go. You could see there were certain throws he just looked like he was a little bit off. I thought his accuracy was very inconsistent at Notre Dame. If you read the scouting report that we put in our draft guide, which you can see as part of PFF Edge, last year's draft guide as well as next year's draft guide, all a part of PFF Edge, I said he misses the easy things, but he does the difficult things really well. So, I thought that the other night, the easy stuff, the quote-unquote easy stuff, looked a little bit better, and he still made some of the special plays that I think made him such a high upside type of prospect. So give me your synopsis of Kaiser and, where he is compared to what you expected and just what you saw from that first game.
Yeah, I thought overall it looked pretty comfortable. The coaching staff that they've got there, we've talked about it with Hugh Jackson and David Lee, I think, are the two best guys that he could be possibly playing for. And I think they've done a great job just, getting him back, because it's easy to go from everything that happened at Notre Dame and you're getting beat down throughout the draft process. Then you finally get drafted and you're like, does anybody think I'm a good player still? And I think that those guys did a great job of just, pumping him back up and being like, man, this is the stuff that you can do, because, he does look better with balance and everything. And I think footwork will come, just the under the center stuff, just getting live game reps and instead of just practice reps. Obviously, it's just a ton difference when it's live bullets. But overall, looked good, looked pretty comfortable. You mentioned accuracy, a few throws, maybe just a little off on some outside the number stuff. But, man, that play that he made on the pump route where he slid in the pocket, pumped the defense, the free safety, and then was able to step back up through the pocket and then put that ball on the money was probably the best play I saw all week, and just kind of showcase some of the stuff that you can do with him, because he's got such a great instinct and feel in the pocket, and you mix that with his poise. You've got a lot of those types of plays out there to do, and his arm talent obviously as well. So thought overall looked good. Big time play at the end of the game, something that last year just didn't happen, whether it was receivers or whether it was on him. Some of those games down the stretch just didn't work out. He gets a chance to do it in the first game and delivers, a big time throw at the end of the game. So definitely a lot of positive things week one for Kizer.
Definitely a hashtag big time throw. If you guys see any big time throws, be sure to hashtag us big time throw. Those are our PFF's highest graded throws. My favorite stat and the namesake of the big time throwcast. I thought it was a good synopsis of Kizer. You're absolutely right. I mean, as much as I wanted to criticize him last year for missing some of the easy stuff, there were definitely some plays where you're like, man, just smooth athlete, moving in the pocket, has the zip on his arm too. The fact that he maneuvered the pocket and then just laid the ball out there about 55, 60 yards, that just having that opportunity for the deep play was pretty incredible. I think, there's a couple plays I thought he was a little late. I thought the same thing happened in Notre Dame, where you're just like, he hits the top of his drop and you're just like, throw the ball. Just throw it. You see it.
Yeah.
I know you see it. Just throw it. I still think there were a handful of plays where that was the case. I brought that up to you on that last deep ball. I said, hey, is he late here? And you had a pretty astute analysis of what happened there. Can you explain what happened on that last deep ball? Because I think, to the viewer, it looks like he's taking his time, but what did you see on that deep ball where you said, you know what, that was the right play, and he, threw it pretty accurately when he had a chance to throw it?
Yeah, so it was it was an all-out blitz, cover zero look, and the receiver was running a go route. Typically go routes you're releasing on the outside. The DB played heavy outside, so he released inside. And usually if it's an inside release, you got to get the receiver's eyes before you're ready to throw that. And the receiver inside release, but then took off like he was still running an outside release go ball. So I think Kizer was ready to throw it, and then you kind of saw him bounce his feet a little bit and make sure that the receiver, he gave him eyes before he let it go. I thought it was a really good play and just showed his overall poise of okay, it's not there. He's not ready to go. Okay, I'm not going to freak out or anything. I'm going to remain calm and still deliver a good throw. But I thought, a couple of those plays in there were really, really positive because, like you mentioned, with the tough plays and tight pockets and those types of things, that's really when he's playing at his best. And the NFL, as we know, is it's a tight pocket type of game, moving in the pocket or making throws under pressure with guys in your face, and he definitely showed a lot of flashes of that.
Yeah, he was under pressure on 54.5% of his dropbacks. That's a huge number. The NFL average is right around 35%. So we did get to see a lot of his work under pressure. From our draft guide last year, we called him the best quarterback under pressure. So again, while he wasn't from a grading standpoint as clean as guys like Deshaun Watson or even Trubisky or Mahomes last year in college, Kizer's high-end stuff, whether it was that deep ball that we talked about where he maneuvered the pocket, playing under pressure, playing with guys, falling at his feet or whatever it might be, those are the things he did really well. I just kept saying, man, when they give you the 5-yard curl, just hit it. When they give you the check down, just hit it. When there's an open receiver, just hit it. Man, if he starts hitting and just getting the basics more consistent, then we're talking okay, this could be a special draft pick for for the Browns. So, what as his mentor, potential former mentor, whatever you want to call yourself, what are you looking for the rest of the preseason here? Is it just tie up a couple of the misses that he had? He also took a couple sacks. I'll say I think he held the ball a little bit longer than he should have on a couple sacks, and that was the thing at Notre Dame. We charged him with 18 sacks over the last 2 years while playing behind a really good offensive line. So there are certainly plays where he just holds it a little bit too long. What are you looking for from Kizer now as the preseason progresses?
Yeah, I think it's just continued development of the easy stuff, like you're saying, taking the throw, don't wait for something else to happen, get it out of your hand, playing that timing, rhythm, offense, and then when it's time to have to move in the pocket or they call a deep shot, that's when you really get to unleash. But I think just overall understanding of the offense, getting guys in the right spots. You're going to see a few more defensive looks week 2 and week 3 of the preseason, making the right checks, whether it's in the run game, pass game, just overall just the holistic kind of approach and seeing everything and really not trying to rush into it, because this is really his job. And it's just a matter of time of when he takes that over and not feeling like I got to be ready to go week 1. If you're not ready to go week 1, let somebody else do it, and maybe you're ready to go week 5 or whenever that is, because this is definitely going to be his team once he's ready to roll. So I think just continue development in kind of those areas and just overall understanding the offense so he can play just a little bit faster.
I want to reiterate, when these guys got drafted, these 4 first-round picks, Trubisky, Mahomes, Watson, Kizer, second-round pick, but those first 4 quarterbacks off the board, you and I sat there and said, man, situation-wise, they all look pretty good. I'd say maybe Watson, we said, hey, how's he going to adjust to a Bill O'Brien system? How are they going to adjust to each other? But when you talk about Trubisky in Chicago, and we talked about that system earlier today, good fit. Mahomes with Andy Reid, who has experience working with guys from Brett Favre to Donovan McNabb to Alex Smith, every style of quarterback, a good fit. Watson with Bill O'Brien, probably a good fit there. But Kizer in Cleveland with Hugh Jackson, and we loved that fit, right? That was,
yeah.
I think these 4 quarterbacks all looked like they went to the right places, and I think there were enough positives in week 1 that everybody should be feeling good about where these guys are so far.
No, I totally agree. I agree, and I think the Houston thing with Watson is going to make more and more sense. It seems like he's a pretty smart guy and understands a lot of stuff pre-snap, which that system does put on your plate is a lot of pre-snap adjustments and seeing different things. I think he's very, very good. We mentioned, back around the draft time at the pre-snap process. So I think really all these guys have got a chance, and they're in a good spot. It's not like one of these guys ended up on the Jets and they're, being forced to play right now or something. They're in good spots, good staffs, good systems in place. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see just which guys end up playing this year and when they're in there, what it looks like in live bullets.
We will get to the Jets in a minute, and we'll talk a little bit of Christian Hackenberg, but I want to fly through a couple more guys before we wrap it up, because certainly those top 4 quarterbacks, probably the biggest story of this entire weekend, preseason week 1. Let's talk Buffalo Bills, Nathan Peterman. Sam and I talked about him a little bit. Sam, guys, go check out the episode, preseason week 1. Sam was nearly in tears because his boy Tyrod Taylor, he kind of feels Tyrod's job slipping away. They're trading away Sammy Watkins. They're trading away Ronald Darby. It's almost like they're in pure rebuild mode. They won't commit to Tyrod long term. Sam's hero is potentially maybe even losing his job if Nathan Peterman continues to progress. I don't know that we're there just yet, but it was an encouraging first outing for Peterman. And here's the thing I'll say about him at Pittsburgh. As much as I could not stand watching that offense because of all of the jet sweep and misdirection and stuff that I just don't love, and all the shovel passes, when he had a chance to drop back, kind of survey the field, make a tight window intermediate throw, drop one over the shoulder down the field, man, he looked pretty good. It looked good under pressure. He always seemed to show well in the various ways that we were quantifying quarterbacks. So, Peterman was definitely an intriguing quarterback. There was a lot of mixed opinions of him coming out of the draft. Some people had him as high as a second-round pick. Some people did not like him. What did you see? How high were you on Peterman coming out, first of all? And what did you see from him week one? Did that kind of match up with what we had seen in college?
Yeah, I think we were fairly high on Peterman as a development backup type of guy. I think when you looked at some of the guys that went ahead of him and Davis Webb, I thought that Peterman was a far better college player and just really had some of the different, like you said, passing under pressure and all those different stats just swung in his favor. Plus, he's a very, very good processor. And sees the game well. And whenever you have, those things going for you, you're always going to have a chance to find a completion somewhere. I think, the arm stuff coming out, he doesn't have exactly high end arm talent. But it's accurate enough. You're not going to have, some of the crazy tight window throws maybe that you get with some of these other guys that maybe Davis Webb does have, but can he get to that spot to begin with? But, arm looked okay. I think he was off on just a few throws he should hit in some tighter pockets. But overall, I mean, the guy just sees the game well, understands how to play the position, and is a really good processor of where to go. So he's got a chance. Is his arm going to develop to a certain level that it needs to get to?
Yeah, that's where I was as far as the arm strength. Definitely didn't see that crazy zip. When we watched Peterman at the Senior Bowl, and Davis Webb was at the Senior Bowl, and we'll talk about him in a second. I know it's difficult for quarterbacks to go down to the Senior Bowl and look good consistently because you've got new systems, new receivers. Are they running a 6-yard route when it's supposed to be 5? There's all those question marks. But the whole week, the quarterbacks just looked terrible. Balls hitting the ground left and right, overthrows, underthrows, miscommunications. And Peterman, even though maybe he was checking down, he just moved the chains. He just completed passes. Every now and again, he'd stick one in there at intermediate route, deep out, put the ball where he wanted. So, kind of what you saw the other night, right? Knows where to go with the ball, will make good decisions, picked up some yards with his legs. So another guy, I think, to keep an eye on. I don't think he's going to challenge Tyrod immediately for that job in Buffalo. I don't know if he'll ever challenge Tyrod for that job, but he was a guy. If you tell me you could get Nathan Peterman in the 5th round, I'm like, sure, I'll take that.
Right.
Let's see. And like you said, we've seen guys increase their arm strength, get a little bit more zip, and add a little bit more to it. Maybe there is something there. So another guy to keep a close eye on as the preseason progresses. Let's go to the Giants and Davis Webb, and actually graded this game the other night. Geno Smith was in there for the Giants for a big chunk of the game. Davis Webb came in late. He was a 3rd-round pick. He was your classic big-armed, tall quarterback that, for some reason, throughout the draft process, got first-round hype. Yeah, it happens every year. I'm already trying to predict the guys next year. It's just the tallest guys in college football that are coming out are probably going to get some first-round hype. Happened with Tom Savage. Happened with Mike Glennon. It just happens. But when you watch Davis Webb play, man, I really want to like Davis Webb because I like trying to fall in love with guys that have tools. I think you see the zip on his arm, and you see some of it off field. He's supposed to be the film rat and all that stuff. Just loves it. But he just looked a lot like he did at Cal. I think I sent the message to you one time when I was watching his Cal tape. I'm like, he just doesn't set his feet on any throw. Clean pocket, unclean pocket. He is just drifting away from everything. I saw a lot of that the other night. What'd you see from Webb? I thought he struggled a little bit in his debut.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think the stuff that you mentioned in college definitely showed up right away. Seemed like the first few plays of the game, and when he's throwing timing and rhythm, and he's able to take 3 steps with a hitch, and the look is how he wants it to throw that route. He looks good because his arm talent wise is very good. It's just a matter of poise in the pocket and staying composed when things aren't working out how you hope, and then just overall scanning the field and what you're seeing, and I think those are the questions you had coming out, and then it kind of showed up again the other night. But maybe he can just continue to progress and learn this system down so well that it becomes a second nature to him with footwork wise and being able to stay on balance and a little more poised. But right now, definitely got a long way to go. Going to be interesting to see just how much he does develop, in the next couple of years.
Love the Google Doc note, Zach. Read our scouting report. That's exactly what he looked like. And you guys can read the scouting report that Zach wrote up, and I edited and made sure it looked right. That's how we did it last year. It's all a part of PFF Edge, last year's draft guide and next year's draft guide, as well as all of our fantasy tools in our player grades, all a part of PFF Edge. I don't know why you guys have not picked it up yet. Check it out at profootballfocus.com. So Webb certainly needs a lot more reps. I keep getting on him about the footwork thing, and you always come back with this very reasonable, well, maybe when he learns the system, some of that stuff, gets better and he can play with more confidence. I'll say this, when he was throwing, pre-snap read was clean, and he's throwing the outside the numbers, outside lane curl, as you like to call it, looked really good. Hits the top of his drop, good zip, it's out there. He made another pretty nice play when he scrambled out and made a play on the run. Again, it was just more of just the simple stuff. His first pass, maybe he was a little jittery, but first pass was air-mailed up the seam for a near interception. So definitely need to see more development from Webb. Him landing as like a third or fourth rounder, though, was a lot more reasonable than the first-round hype that we heard. And I think that's what he showed in his debut.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I think time will tell with all these guys, but I think you could definitely tell Webb got drafted on arm talent and with the hopes that somebody could develop him in the pocket and playing with a little more poise and footwork, like we mentioned. And then Peterman, other way around, he's got all the other stuff. He goes in the 5th round because of his arm talent isn't quite as good as Davis Webb. So I'm kind of watching those two guys back and forth to see who ends up, with more, I guess, production here in the preseason, and then as they get developed, into backups down the road, because they're kind of interesting case studies, I guess, to go back and forth, and because they're completely different styles, completely different arms. Just which one's going to get more production, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I like the comparison. It's worth. Look, there's a reason why I am a kind of a Kellen Moore apologist, and I really have to explain. I don't think Kellen Moore is, a top 10 starter in this league or anything like that. All I'm saying about Kellen Moore is he is the exact opposite of, say Davis Webb or Logan Thomas or the next guy we're going to talk about, Christian Hackenberg. We're talking the guys who look like quarterbacks, have cannons for arms, but then you get to the negatives and it's like, all we have to do is teach this guy accuracy. All we have to do is teach this guy poise in the pocket. And it's like, what do you mean? All you have to do? Like, those, let me list the best quarterbacks in the league: Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, Manning. Every top quarterback, you don't start with, well, he has a cannon and he also is really accurate and poised in the pocket. You start with accuracy, decision-making, poise in the pocket, and by the way, he has enough arm to make all these throws, and in Rodgers' case, maybe he has a special arm, right?
All right.
So with Kellen Moore, I'm like, look, he's got pretty good accuracy, he's got this pocket poise, he's got all these things that you need to have in the NFL, and then it's like, oh, by the way, he has a middle school arm, and that's like being generous. So I'm just fascinated by
that he can make it work.
The opposite, right? And honestly, every time Kellen Moore plays in the preseason, I think he plays pretty well, and he showed when he started in the NFL a couple years ago. So,
no, you're right. You like feel guys, basically. You like the guys that got the good feel for the game, can see everything, and just maybe a tick down on the arm strength, but those guys can find completions, take care of the ball, and definitely a way to win with those guys. So I'm with you.
I just think we need to rethink what the teachable and unteachable things are.
Yes.
It's always been, well, if a guy has a cannon, I'll teach him accuracy. And you just don't become more accurate, or at least, you can't take this massive jump
Right.
in accuracy. You could take small jumps in anything, I think. So just rethinking what we're considering teachable and unteachable. I think Kellen Moore has closer to unteachable things than maybe a guy like Davis Webb, which is that
Absolutely.
feel for the game and all that stuff. So, look, I was a Ryan Mallett apologist as well, because that was the opposite. That was just, here's this cannon for an arm that I just want to see put it all together. I would just love to see it. So I'm not rooting for or against any of this stuff. I'm like you said, Webb versus Peterman, fascinated by this case study. Ryan Mallett was always a case study in my head. Cannon for an arm. Can he learn quarterbacking things? Kellen Moore, no arm. Can he do enough quarterbacking things to overcome it? So that's just where my mind goes with these guys. Let's talk New York Jets and Christian Hackenberg. We'll wrap it up with this. He's not a rookie, but the Jets actually just said he's basically a rookie because he didn't take any reps last year, didn't have any game action other than a little bit of preseason action. There is no secret around the football world that PFF was not high on Christian Hackenberg, and we did call him an undraftable prospect. I completely get that the entire situation at Penn State was difficult, and I get that Christian Hackenberg is a good kid who had to battle through that, and I'm sure it was very difficult. The problem was the on-field grading for not just the 2 years that we have full data, the 3 years of Hackenberg, even when he played under Bill O'Brien. Accuracy was poor, just was not a great quarterback. So even if the situation was horrendous, we wanted to see at least, decent play. It was bad. And then last year in the preseason, it was poor once again. Now we're talking first preseason action here. He completed a ton of passes. The stats looked okay. It looked reasonable. So what did you see from Hackenberg in his first start here in the preseason, Zach?
Yeah, they kept it very simple. I think anybody that watched the game could see that. They were, a lot of quick game. Everything was pretty much underneath, get the ball out of his hands. And, he did a good job at that. He got the ball where it needed to go, threw it fairly accurately. I don't think he was missing any of those underneath shots, really. Really, it came down. He was able to hit his first read on all but really one play that I could remember seeing it when he got to a check down, made a good play. But a lot of quick game underneath stuff. Took a couple shots down the field that were on go balls that were miles over the guy's head, overthrows. Didn't give a guy a chance, but. For what they asked him to do and execute, that offense and the quick passing game that they had going, he did a fine job. He did all right. Didn't, I guess mess it up anyway with wild throws or wild accuracy. Was generally, throwing under about 5 yards, 10 yards. So, had a solid night. I think decent start. Now it's like, okay, what can we get? Can we get some more offense? Can we get some stuff down the field and see really if his accuracy has improved, over the last course of the year?
It was definitely baby steps in the right direction. And by the way, if people remember Christian Hackenberg's first preseason action last year, he was like 4 for 4, drove them down the field. It wasn't just dink and dunk. He was making downfield throws and doing a great job. He did look great. Now, the wheels fell off after that. But for those 4 or 5 passes, he looked really good, even to the point that the dude... I'm on a list, by the way. Do you know about the list that I'm on?
No. What you got?
I am on a guy named Chris Lowe. I think he was Rich Eisen's producer. Rich Eisen show? Not sure exactly. But he's a Penn State guy. Penn State homer, and he created a list of Hackenberg haters. And I think actually you're on the list too, because he mentioned myself, He mentioned Sam, he mentioned Chris Collinsworth because he owns us, and he mentioned PFF as a whole just by association. So we're all on the Hackenberg haters list. And he's ready to call us out at any time. It's almost like any completion I'm getting these tweets back at me, hashtag the list. Look at this, guys. Hackenberg completed a pass. But after his first 4 or 5 passes last year, I was getting tweeted at. And they were gold jacketing Hackenberg. And then the wheels fell off last preseason. So, it's just funny. We don't hate Hackenberg at all. We're just trying to call it like we see it. And calling it like we see it, we'll be completely objective here. This is a baby step in the right direction, right? Like you said, he took what was given. He executed the game plan. He used to he was airmailing 5-yard throws all the time anyway, so the fact that he's at least completing them, that's progress. Yes, 68% of his throws were short of the first down marker. That was third highest in the preseason. 5.1 average depth of target. That was third lowest in the preseason. And you take out those two 20-yard attempts, and his average depth of target was 2.8 yards. So you can't get much more dink and dunk than that. But, hey, he looked all right for what they asked him to do for now. Certainly a lot more steps to go for Hackenberg.
Yeah, I'm interested to see just if he can take the next step to be the guy, because you know that they want to trot him out there and see if he can do it. They draft him in the second round for a reason. But, I think that internally they kind of know, what he is and the dangers that there could be playing him. But, it looks to be a rebuilding type year, and who knows how much that regime is, if anybody's going to be around. So, they got to check out and see what he's got. Is he going to be ready to go week 1? Do they feel fine about, putting him out there then? I'm not sure if it's going to be then or just wait till, they're losing some games and then see what they got with him. But he's definitely going to play, and I think it's going to be, just very interesting to see how that all goes down when he gets his opportunity.
It is unfortunate that he's going to have to play with such a depleted talent roster. I mean, no weapons, okay to bad offensive line. I mean, he just
it's not like he's got the legs to, take off and kind of mask some of the stuff with lack of playmakers or offensive line. So that there's definitely a lot of things that are going against him.
I mean, we could easily be sitting here a year from now. He's got terrible numbers, looks bad, but there's just another built-in excuse. Yeah, but it was with the Jets, and they were a 1-15 team. So now we're looking at a guy who has 2 years of excuses at Penn State, another year of an excuse with the Jets, and people are still going to be saying, "Hey, he's okay. He's okay. Just give him the playmakers." So we'll see. It is tough to throw him out there and treat him with kid gloves when he really doesn't have anybody to help him out. So do want to see them open it up a little bit more though, and see what he can do. So that'll do it for us. We talked a lot about the rookie quarterbacks and, of course, Hackenberg. We'll be doing this every single week, dissecting the quarterbacks, their PFF grades, how they got their grades, some key stats, what Zach saw from a scheme standpoint, and, of course, always Zach's advice as to how we can make these guys better. Always a lot of fun diving into quarterback play. Give us your feedback if you're liking the show, especially if it's been your first time listening as part of the PFF podcast. Zach is at Zach, that's ZAC, _Robinson5. I am at PFF_Steve. Don't forget about playdraft.com or the app Draft. Go ahead and make your first deposit. Use the promo code PFF to get in there and get a free $3 game. And, of course, we have so many different ways for you to dominate your fantasy football league with PFF Edge and PFF Elite. And it's not just fantasy, it's our player grades. It is our draft guides. If you sign up for Edge, you get last year's draft guide, this year's preseason draft guide, and you're already signed up for next year's postseason draft guide. We used to sell those for $20 a pop. It's all a part of PFF Edge for only $40. Go to profootballfocus.com/products. You'll see everything you need to see there. So thanks again for listening, guys. Zach and I will be back next week, and I'll be back with some NFC previews later in the week. Thanks for listening. We'll talk next time.